Hi, welcome to Help with Hannah and Calvin. I'm Calvin Reed.
I'm Hannah Jones. That's the line, right?
And we're here to answer your questions.
Okay, sorry. I still hadn't pulled up the outline and I was like, I can do this from memory. How hard could it be? We are here to answer your questions. This podcast is brought to you by Little India. I might be a mess today, but you know what never is? Little India. There are 4 locations throughout the Denver area and a coffee shop. Some of my favorites on the menu include the chicken korma, tamarind margarita, and all the samosas. If you live in Colorado, you should make this place a regular stop. And if you are visiting our great city, be sure you don't miss Little India. Visit littleindiadenver.com to find a location near you.
And thank you to Dude IDK Studios in Denver where we are recording.
How have you been?
I've been okay, better than we were yesterday. Or when we last recorded.
Yesterday.
So it was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, better than I was 24 hours ago. That's a good thing.
So, and you know what? Same. It's because the sun came out. And I woke up naturally at 8 a.m. and I don't start working with my freelance client until 9. So I drank my coffee and ate my bagel on my patio.
Cute.
And I opened up the patio door. I've been exposing Binky's my cat, gradually to the patio situation.
Love it.
And she was exploring and she got up on the ledge and was watching the cars. She gets so overstimulated by the patio because it's the only vaguely outdoors she's ever been.
Yeah.
But I really like that she can experience fresh air and stuff now.
No, I love that. The fact that you woke up naturally at 8 is just terrifying. That must be a Saturn return thing.
Oh dear.
You
haven't started randomly waking up early yet?
No, I will, but I go right the fuck back to sleep. If I get up,
it's an aging thing because you'll reach a point in your life where you wake up and and you're literally your whole body wants to go back to sleep, but then your brain is like, well, we have a lot to do today.
I'm so hoping my brain just doesn't do that.
Precedence over everything. It's the saddest thing when I literally. I'm sorry, I'm having a mental breakdown now thinking about how I used to avoid work, but then I made my passion my work, and now it's my one driving life force pretty much.
That's what it's turning into for me. I've been thrust into the comedy's your life more than you were expecting a little bit quicker, and now I'm like, oh yeah, now if I just don't feel like doing anything,
yeah,
nothing gets done.
And then the real problem is when you go through a breakup in comedy, and I think most comics know this, you just immediately get so rewarded from throwing yourself into comedy and just booking yourself up a little bit more than ever before. And you come home late at night and you don't want to think about being sad or lonely. So let me just bang out a few clips right now. It's it's so bad. My work-life boundaries have completely deteriorated.
I feel it's hard when it's so your passion though. I feel that one of those things where it's you never work a day in your life because you're passionate about what you're doing, because it is different. It's a different kind of work. It's
For
still
sure.
work, but it hits a little bit different. So the boundaries need to be a little bit different.
It does hit a little bit different because my boss is me and I'm perfect.
Exactly. Well, yeah, sure. Yeah, you're perfect. Tell yourself that. Yeah.
Shut up. I'll kick you right off the podcast.
You're hey, guess what? It's Help with Hannah Jones. That's it.
It existed before you, and it will exist after you.
Damn. Ouchies.
I'm just kidding. Okay, what's your update thing?
So last time we talked about Survivor,
yeah,
you mentioned some people I hadn't known. One of them being Boston Rob.
Yeah. You watched it.
I watched not his first season because I didn't want to watch old Survivor. I watched what I thought was his 3rd season, but was actually his 4th.
Okay, here's the thing. And he is still hot, but he's very hot in a different way. And I will tell you, go back and watch Young Boston Rob, because Young Boston Rob, that'll make your pussy pop.
Okay, because the season I watched the entire time I was talking to my roommate, because we started the season because of you.
He seems like a good dad.
No, I was he's not attractive. I was he looks like someone who gave me gonorrhea. Okay, well, we have a different type, Calvin. He looks like someone who could have given me gonorrhea. That's what he looks like.
And would it be wrong to say sometimes that's an attractive look?
I mean, because every once in a while during that season, I was I kind of get where Hannah's going, but majority of the season, I was like, he's not that cute. But I watched, like, I don't think it was a good season. It was the season he plowed. Like, he literally plowed through it. He literally did not make a single mistake. He literally fucked everybody and fucked everybody over.
And he never makes a mistake. His gameplay is just exquisite. He has the perfect personality for Survivor because he doesn't have any real insecurities, but he's just socially aware enough to make all the right choices, but not socially neurotic and like overthinking everything. Because that's what a lot of the like quote unquote smart players do. And like what would happen to me is that I would just like overthink every angle to the point where it's impossible to be likable and trustworthy. He thinks just the right amount about every choice.
He does, and he deserved to win the season he won because he literally plowed through his entire competition. Like every single time he was a part of an elimination, that it went the way he wanted it to go. Like it became almost boring, but the entire time my roommate was like, "So this is who Hannah said was cute. We're just gonna have to do it because it was like his third or fourth."
No, please, I swear to God, please look up the season with Amber because she's also wildly
the
attractive.
two were they are the final two? Okay.
And they like fell in love and then
he proposed.
No spoilers. Okay.
Sorry, spoilers. Well, because we watched the season right after.
Or watch their Amazing Race season together because they're also very compelling and hot on the Amazing Race.
Maybe I'll do their Amazing Race season. Well, I should do the earlier Survivor seasons too. I was the same way with Drag Race, with RuPaul's Drag Race. I watched like the season I got started on and then I went forward. I never went back.
On the topic though of being attracted to men who look like they could give you gonorrhea, I realized this today because I was literally looking at someone on Hinge and it was like most compatible. And I was like, I realized that when I was in my early 20s, I like loved going out, having a good time, drinking. I loved a dive bar. I worked as a barista. And my type was like dudes who were also in that space.
Yes.
Right? Like no bed frame ass, mustache ass.
Yeah.
Like, but probably hasn't gotten a dental cleaning in 5 years ass dudes. Right? But now, like my type is the same, but I'm sober, pretty successful.
Yeah.
Have my shit exquisitely in order, like extremely type A and organized and like financially stable and like live in a cute, clean apartment. Cleans for fun because it calms me down. I'm incompatible with my type. I need to like get a new type.
Maybe you'll find the one mustache guy that knows how to clean.
When I see guys with regular jobs though, nothing. I feel nothing.
I'm fine with someone with a regular job.
A man in slacks?
Fine. I'll suck it up. I'm fine with it.
I literally won't.
It's like not my preference,
when
but I'll
I
suck
see
it
a
up.
man in slacks, my brain can't even think about liking him. My brain is literally like, that's the enemy. That's like your boss, you know? Like when I see a man in slacks, I just immediately become very aggressive.
I get that. I understand why that's there. I'm attracted to artsy types in theory, but not quite as much in practice. I'm okay with just like a nice corporate man. We can do, you can talk shit on your job and then you just go back to it. That's okay. Go off, king.
And see, the thing is, I also hate when men have normal jobs and they talk to me about their normal jobs.
Like, it's not my favorite thing in the world, but it's like, whatever.
But then I have a man without a job and I'm like, God, this is so frustrating. You can't pay for anything. It's like,
that's where I went on a date.
I
went on a date with someone who was unemployed. Me though. I've been on dates since I had a date planned the day after I got fired, but I had it planned for a while. And so he was like, how are you? How was your week? And I was like, believe it or not my best. I'm now unemployed. And I was, but we paid for ourselves, so it was fine. And then I went on a date with a guy and he had just gotten fired too.
Okay, question about the gay community. What percentage is someone paying for the date and what percentage are you going Dutch?
It is literally so not consistent. It's just not. So I go into every single first date prepared to pay. Like in my head, I'm like, you have enough money to pay. You might pay. But typically the person who asked me, you're the one who asked me, you should pay, or we go Dutch. Like that's to me the only two we should do. If I was the one who got asked, I shouldn't pay unless it's the second date. I've done that before where a guy asked me on the first and second date and I paid for the second date because he paid for the first. I'm not a prick. Like that kind of thing. Like if someone pays for first, the other person should pay for second, but Dutch is just kind of easy. Mm-hmm. It's a good assumption, especially because like one date I went on, this one guy spent $50 on his own and I spent $15. And I'm like, I'm not going to cover you.
How does that even happen?
I got one drink and fries, and then he got pretzels and 3 or 4 drinks.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I also it's so interesting because I'm sober, and a lot of times I don't bring it up until like maybe right before the date when we're like picking the location. I'll be like, by the way, I love going out for a drink. I order something non-alcoholic because I don't drink. And the two responses, the majority of dudes who I would actually want to go out with again are like, they don't have to do this, but they're always like, oh yeah, like I've been trying to cut back anyway. Or like, oh yeah, I don't drink on a Thursday. Or they'll say something like that, and they'll also get something non-alcoholic.
Yeah.
The other, I've had dudes who like are like, because I make it clear, like I'm fine being in a bar, and they're like, okay, I'll drink my usual amount, and they'll have like 3 drinks while we're together. And it's like, that's an odd thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, because when we did it, I'm more of like I'm such a Coloradan. I prefer weed over alcohol just like significantly. So it's like, I'll have a drink. I love a cider. I'll have a cider, but I'm never going to want, like, they're expensive. I feel bloated if I have too much. Like, I never want more than 1 or 2. I've always been like that too.
Having, a drink gap is like an age gap where it's like there's an appropriate gap.
There
You
is.
can have 2 drinks if someone has 1 drink. You can have 1 drink if they have 0 drinks.
Yes.
But there's like this line for the 3rd drink, because I feel like anyone, no matter how much, like no matter what their tolerance is, when you have a 3rd drink, you're like, it's obvious. And it's just weird as fuck to have a 3rd drink with someone who's only had 1 or 0.
Yeah, especially if they've had
IMO.
0. Especially if they've had 0, that is really, really weird.
Yeah.
Because like this person wasn't like driving or anything, so they didn't, I guess they didn't have to like worry too much about that. And we like walked around and stuff, and we talked, and I didn't like notice them acting any different. But it was like, okay, like I probably wouldn't, like if we're going out for drinks, I'm not going to ever like offer to pay for you because you spent triple what I did.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's just a little shocking. I don't know. I also went on a date with an alcoholic once, and I didn't know until the 2nd date when I had to drive his car.
I went on a date once with a guy who asked me about being sober and then confessed that he's an alcoholic. And I was like, okay, what are we doing here? I'm not your fucking sponsor, dude. Because I never had a problem. I barely drank, and now I don't drink. That's not the same as you, sir.
Yeah.
He was like,
that's rough.
was like, I'll drink. He was like, sometimes I'll have like 7 in a night. Like most weekend nights, I'll have like 7 in a night. And on a regular night, maybe like 3. I'm like, well, that's pretty cut and dried. That's like a problem for sure.
Yeah, 7. How do you just not feel bloated all the time? That's the thing that gets me, is I just would feel bloated and gross. But
beer doesn't bloat me.
Beer literally bloats me so bad. I don't ever have more than 1. If it's beer, I'll be lucky if I have 1 just because it's so much. Ciders I could have a little bit more of. If it's a really good wine, I could. But
Sorry,
yeah,
you have a weak stomach, but I
just
can
for
digest
beer, which is
anything.
odd because my family I have such family history of alcoholism, specifically with beer, that like my stomach was prone. I feel like my stomach was primed through generations. I'm Irish. Like my stomach is meant to handle beer, and it just doesn't. Like I just don't. Maybe it's the flavor too. I just haven't found. But I love ciders. Like if ciders were what beer was, I think alcoholism would scare me a little bit more.
Ciders give me too much of like a sugar rush. I feel like I want to brush my teeth after.
Some ciders do that. That's why there's a few venues in Denver that have like multiple ciders, and when I get to try them, I'm like, this is me. This is because every place we perform at in Denver is a fucking brewery that only serves beer. So when I get my one cider, I'm so happy.
Aww.
It makes me great. But no, one time I had a cider that was literally like drinking apple juice, and that was too much. I couldn't finish it.
Yeah.
Because it's gross. Like I like sweet stuff, but it's too much. Like make it a milkshake. Like if I want something that's sweet, I'm just going to literally drink a milkshake.
Yeah.
The fuck? So what's the slick guy thing you have going on?
Oh, okay. Well, it's interesting. So I actually, let me back up. Okay. Because this is a whole story. So this month, I don't know if you've ever seen these memes, but I've seen like 4 TikToks that'll be like it'll be like some sort of audio, and it'll be like me having to go on 4 first dates that I scheduled last week when I was ovulating.
Okay.
Are you familiar with this concept? Do you have women in your life who have expressed this?
1000%.
Okay, it's the most relatable thing ever, right? Because you start ovulating and you're like, you feel so good about yourself, you're super motivated to date, and then it kind of like takes a week for things to like materialize. Like when I was in my early 20s, I would play a game where if I like wanted to go on a date that night, I would see how quickly I could schedule one. And on Tinder, you're just like swiping, and I could like send the message and be like, here's the time and place. But then like I learned a number of things, which is that like I don't love initiating plans because I like finding out very early on whether or not a guy can initiate plans, as opposed to like waiting forever and all of a sudden realizing I've initiated all the plans. And like it's like 29-year-olds with jobs and like friends by and large are just like not free the majority of the time. I'm like never free, and if he has anything going on in his life, then he also won't be free for like maybe a whole week. And so it just like used to be like, let's go out tonight and like grab a drink, or like I'm done with my show at 10, let's meet up at 10. And now that's just like not how it works. So this month, I was like, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to experiment, right? Because for me, it's like you do your matching, and then within the next few days, conversations are started. And a lot of them are kind of non-starters because you don't like the vibe that you're getting from the banter.
Yeah.
And then perhaps numbers are exchanged, and then a few days later, and I have to like wait for them to like want to make plans because, again, I don't want to initiate the plans. And so it's like a 1.5 to 2 week process between the swipe and the date itself.
Yeah.
So this time I was like, okay, if that's the math, and if I know I always want to be going on first dates when I'm ovulating, that means devastatingly I have to be swiping on my period.
Yes.
Which you've never menstruated, but the idea of swiping on your period feels like force feeding yourself like pulverized broccoli baby food. It's like I could not possibly think about going on a date with a human being. Disgusting. The idea of like getting dressed up and talking to someone I don't know about bullshit. It's like the most unappetizing idea. But I was like, I think if I can just eat my vegetables while I'm on my period, I think I can set myself up for a really wonderfully timed month.
I actually think that the girl maths. Like,
I
that
got
makes
all
sense
my
to me.
prospects in order.
Hell yeah.
And I've been planting the seeds and I've been nurturing the seeds, and it has not been necessarily very fun because I haven't like felt like messaging people. But this is the first week where I'm like, oh, this is like fun. And also these are the 2 dates that I have scheduled tonight and tomorrow night.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that works out. But it's also very funny. This is the first time where all at once I have nurtured like a bunch of seeds that all started at the same time.
Yeah.
And so it's a really interesting compare and contrast model. And I realized that there's like one person that I'm talking to who's like very fun to talk to because he's ultimately giving me very little. And it's very like, ooh, does he like, and then there's another person who I like, he's not fun to talk to because he was just immediately like, you look so cool. We like exchanged some banter. He complimented me. He like made it clear he was into me, and then we made a date, and then he like didn't talk to me, which is ultimately my favorite thing. But I was like, oh, it's interesting. It's not activating my dopamine receptors. I think this is like a microcosm of the general problem that women are having, that people are having when they like pick the wrong attachments. Because it's like there's this one guy who's like now following me on social media and like occasionally like DMing and stuff, but he's not like making the effort to make a date, and he's just like it's like
this is my dating experience. I get like I get like groups, and it just kind of, maybe it's because of like how the world works, like, you know what I mean? Like, because I get what you mean, where there are like days where I'm so incredibly horny or just like need love. Like I just need something. Yeah. Like I just need like something that my friends can't give me. And so I put in so much effort for like a couple of days, and then a couple of days I'm over it. But like I nurtured quite a few seeds. So then they want to go on a date next week. And then for the date next week, I'm like, hi, I'm here. Right.
No,
like I kind of
literally.
get that. So I very much understand. Like, to me, I think it's at a more micro level, because like you're right, you have like ovulating in a period, you have like a whole ass time cycle. Mine I think is more, and just
mine
like
can be charted and can be somewhat predictable.
Yeah, mine are just, mine go for a couple of days, and then it's off for a couple of days. But I do fully get what you mean. But because of that, and maybe that's just how my brain works, I always get guys in groups. Even when I try not to, I always end up getting like guys in groups where I'm like, okay, well, I'm talking to these three right now. And one is really fun to talk to in person, but he's really shitty to talk to texting wise. This one, he's really consistent, but I don't feel anything. But then there's this other guy who I think is the hottest one of the bunch, but we talk the least or something like that. And then I'm able to create guys, and my roommate's starting to get this type of thing. And so now we just we just have nicknames for our guys, which is so mid-20s roommates thing to do.
Fun.
But yeah, we just have nicknames.
Okay, Sex in the City.
It is Sex in the City. It is a little bit.
That's so cute.
Yeah, she's Carrie and I'm Miranda.
And you know what? I'm also Miranda, and it's not fun.
I've never been a Miranda before. In all of my friendships, I have in all my friend groups, I'm either a Charlotte or a Samantha, and I think I'm a Miranda.
Yeah.
You're definitely a Miranda. There's no question.
Okay, that was so mean.
But you are such a Miranda.
Literally no reason to say that.
Miranda's great. I didn't watch and just like that, so I don't know about. I stopped.
Have you watched any of Sex in the City?
Yeah, to me the universe ended after the first movie. And I thought Miranda had one of the best storylines in that movie.
I've only watched a lot of the early episodes. Like, I feel like I've watched season 1 a few different times in my life.
Oh, okay. So Miranda sucks in season 1. She grows.
It's not that she sucks. It's just like she's understood to be on a very subtle level the like not charming or attractive one of the friend group, and I really hate that.
Yeah, I don't like how they do that. Because especially in season 1 they lean. So I've never rewatched season 1. I'm bad at rewatching season 1 shows because I know the characters. I want to see them fleshed out and rewatch that. So yeah, I do agree. I don't think her character started off as being written really, really well, but once like they like lean into her sexually a little bit more, it's like way more. She's just way more fun, and she's just like a new perspective. That like Charlotte and Carrie are just different about their sex, which is different from Samantha, but then Miranda's different than the other three too, so it creates a better dynamic. I do understand what you mean though with season 1. She's not very well. Neither is Charlotte. Charlotte's written like a prude in season 1 too. Like they're all written as archetypes rather than real characters.
Yeah, Charlotte does feel, I mean, they all feel pretty real in season 1. It's crazy how timely that show is. Every time I rewatch it, I'm like, oh my God, it's the same conversations we're having now. We haven't progressed at all.
No, we haven't.
I'm like,
yep.
Fucking 90s.
Especially about the fucking there's an episode about vibrators, but it's in a later season. I don't know if you know it. I'm like, yeah, I've literally had that conversation with my girlfriend sitting in sitting in fucking Doug's Day Diner. Literally just like talking about sex.
There's literally an episode where they're like, everyone's poly now. I'm like, oh my God, it's the same stand-up premise I heard 3 times this week. Like,
yep.
How long are we going to say everyone's poly now?
When is it going to be more than just 5 people you know? Because that's how it feels. Like I'm like, everybody's poly, but I'm like, really, it's only 5 people. But
I think
feels
very
like more.
few people are poly. I just think that the people who are poly are very good at being annoying.
Vegans about it. Oh.
Literally being vegans.
They're literally the vegans of sexuality, and it's a different experience. Ugh.
They have such a specific way of speaking. Like I matched with this guy and he said something to me. He like sent a few sentences and I was like, this guy sounds so poly. And yep. E&M and partnered. We date solo or together.
Or we play solo or together.
Oh my God.
Yep. E&M.
Literally, if you refer to sex as play, I'll kill myself.
Unfortunately, I can't escape that in the gay community. If I hear it's called sex, I'm shocked. They only call it play. It's probably like the internal. They're like, we're playing. We're not. It's not sex because sex makes it gay. But like, no, the asshole and the dick is what makes it gay, not the. Yeah, not the.
Well, whatever. Anyway, okay. So wrapping up, so I have all of these styles to contrast, and there was this one. So the one guy that I'm like, because I had this realization, I was like spending all this time thinking about what my reply to this like withholding guy was going to be. And then I was like, wait a second. I have a date on Thursday with a guy who seemed way fucking cooler. And I left him on red all day because he's just been like very gentlemanly. He has like slick little moves, which I think is really cute. I like when a guy is putting moves on, you know? I don't care if you're copying and pasting it and sending it to every girl. That's a perfectly reasonable strategy, okay? I too have worked in sales, you know?
Oh, I have the same shit that I copy and paste, but I'm like, if it works, it works.
And also, if you're sending that message 500 times and I'm the one who gets a date, I could be the only one who responded. I don't know. We'll see.
But like, I don't know. I get that though, because I have shit that I copy and paste. I'm like, it works. It compliments them. I think it's fun to say. It's something I'd like to receive.
I think
Why
it's
don't
very respectable to have put thought into your tactics and optimized them, as opposed to just like flying by the fucking seat of your pants. It feels crafted.
It does.
It feels like you're putting thought into how you go after.
Which, especially for like a first date,
which indicates a certain reverence for pussy, which is important to me.
It's super important. I get that. I love that. Wait, and then the guy who's giving you no attention, is he like slick at all when he does, or is it more just like you like the chase?
It's not that he's giving me no attention. It's just that he's giving me no like indication that he like thinks I'm cool. He's just giving me no compliments.
No, literally.
He's actually giving me so much attention and no compliments, and I'm like, oh my God, Dad? Is that you?
No,
do you have
though.
a very poor opinion of me, and you're kind of always nearby but not really smiling at me? Is that
because
is this Daddy?
Why are we dating if you're not going to compliment me? Why are we dating if good things aren't said?
100%.
Why are we talking?
But if someone makes it really clear how they feel up front and they don't put you on a drip of very subtle positive opinions indicators, then you're like, that question is answered, dopamine received, no more dopamine forever now.
Yeah, like I don't know, I struggle with it because it's like you're dating someone like why are I don't know. And I just know some people, and partially maybe I have more feelings about this because this literally just happened to the guy my roommate went on a date with last week. He's like, let's go on another date, but then he's like not like being like affectionate or like saying anything even like flirty or anything like that. And I get the getting to know you, but it's like, this is a date. Like I want, like there's a perk of it. Like sure, there's a get to know you part, but like there's also should be like a mutual attraction. And I like saying that. I also like, I can't be flirty if you don't open the door first. Unfortunately, I'm used to opening the door first with flirty. Once I'm on a date. When I'm not on a date, I really struggle with it because I get nervous. But no, once I'm on a date and I'm like, hey, this is a date, I'm typically okay with being like, oh, you're cute. Or like I'll drip in something in there. And hopefully that kind of makes it back. But then if I get a compliment back, I'm like, why are you lying to me? So maybe nothing's good enough. Yeah. Nothing is ever good enough, ever. So true. Alrighty, let's get into questions. But before we do, some announcements. I have a monthly new material show in Denver every month on the first Wednesday at Dude IDK, which is the same place we record our podcast. It's a very fun show. It's totally different every time, and it always sells out weeks in advance, so I'd really recommend you come to that. If you want to see me on tour, Los Angeles, June 6th, I'll be at the Lyric Hyperion. And I have May 26th, backing up a week, I'll be in Raleigh. And then I also have dates lined up for Savannah, New York, Boston, Philly, and Nashville. So Nashville, I'll be at Third Coast Comedy Club on June 28th. So get on my text list and you'll receive all of those ticket links as they become available. Beautiful. And I will be in Denver May 18th, 25th, and 31st, and then also in Denver throughout June for the Pride shows. And the May 31st show, if you want to see me do some longer time than normal, go to that one. This podcast is sponsored by the Patreon. Patrons have first priority to get their questions answered, and they also receive a bonus episode every month, and it's only $3 to subscribe at patreon.com/HannahJonesCool. If you want to ask a question to get answered in a future episode, you can find the link to that form in the podcast description or on either of our link trees or on any of our social media platforms. Alrighty, let's get into the questions. First question. Do I have to have the hard conversation or do I wait it out? I, woman 28, have a very close friend, woman 33. We've known each other for a few years and we consider each other best friends at this point. However, I have observed some changes in her behaviors and mental health in the past 9 months and I'm not sure what to do. The behavioral changes definitely became more prominent when I started dating my now boyfriend of 10 months, but I don't think that's the only thing going on. She has always been a social butterfly, which I love about her, but lately it's been leaning towards codependency and an inability to be alone for even one day at a time. She has a self-professed anxious attachment style, and I have secure attachment style. She usually asks me to hang out 5+ times per week. I'm comfortable with taking me time and saying no when I'm not feeling it, but it is still a bit of suffocating feeling. It's still a bit of a suffocating feeling when a friend is so reliant on you socially and in turn emotionally. She also has a tendency to doom spiral for days/weeks over negative feedback and really struggles to use general coping mechanisms to get through challenges. She relies heavily on me and other friends to keep her at equilibrium on a daily basis. Honestly, at times it makes me feel like her emotional support human, more so a best friend. After months of subtle and not so subtle hints, she finally agreed to give therapy a try. First session is this week. I think this has the potential to be great, as she does have some trauma in her past that we both know she hasn't dealt with, and it is definitely contributing to her current mental state. However, in the meantime, I'm not sure if I should communicate that her anxious attachment and codependence has become a burden and is starting to push me and other friends away. I'm comfortable with setting boundaries for myself. However, I'm extremely concerned it will come across as unnecessarily hurtful and send her into several weeks-long doom spiral and be ultimately unproductive. She's very sensitive and has a very volatile sense of self, and I have witnessed firsthand the way comments of this nature can have a really negative impact on her self-worth, confidence, and depression. I must emphasize that I love her very much and have no desire to cut ties with her or anything severe like that. I'm just not totally sure if there's a way to make this conversation beneficial for our relationship right now, or if I should just give her a bit more time to see if therapy works for her and these behaviors start working them out themselves as she starts internal work with a professional. Signed, emotional support human. I think
you blew through that.
I did.
That was so long and you read it so fast. I was like, whoa. Hell yeah. Sorry.
No, I've been both of these people before.
Yeah, me too.
Like, I've definitely been the codependent one who's a little loony boony, but I've also definitely been loony boony. I'm bringing it back. He was loony boony, but then I've also definitely been the friend that's like, I swear to God, literally stop using me as a fucking crutch. Like, I've been both.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. The lines of what's acceptable in friendships are like so subjective. There's not like general guidelines. I would say that there's never a reason to communicate with someone that their anxious attachment and codependence has become a burden. Because what would you be saying? Like, what would be their action item? Like, hey, like, be less of a burden.
Yeah.
Or you would just be setting up this like riddle of like, figure out how to be less of what I don't want or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think that if you're bringing up something to someone, you should have extremely specific behaviors in mind.
Yes.
So you can go to this friend and you can say, hey, my life is a lot and I just decided to reprioritize having more alone time in it, because I've been talking to my therapist and I feel like that's important. So, you know, my boyfriend gets this day a week and like we usually hang out 5 times a week, but I think I'm going to need to like pull back from that a little bit. And I just wanted to say that up front to you so you didn't think that the way I felt about you had changed, but it's just like me prioritizing my alone time or this other thing that I need to do. If your friend responds negatively to that, then just say, oh, I feel like you don't like respect my needs as a person. But there's no reason to escalate it to like that, like emotionally charged, without just like first stating your needs and then seeing how it goes over.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to reflect on it for yourself too, because you're right, like you don't want to hurt her feelings or anything. It's just like a stickier spot in the relationship, right? It'll probably, you know, like once this person's in therapy, this person sounds relatively self-aware. Like they seem to, like, if you know that you have an anxious attachment, plenty of people don't know that. So that might make their therapy start of their own reflecting maybe a smidgen quicker than maybe otherwise. But thinking about those specific actions that they do will kind of help you reflect on exactly how you'd want to say it, what you'd want to say. Because I really liked what you said, Hannah, like where it's like, I want to have more alone time. That's super valid to want more alone time. Like, hey, I need to cut down a little bit. That makes so much sense. And because you know that this person has like social or is anxious attachment, sometimes with my friends, when I know we all struggle with the same mental health stuff, like I'll call it out for the other friend. Like I'll be like, like if we're like, I have a group of friends that we all have body dysmorphia. We all have pretty bad body issues. The second one of us insults the other body, I'm like, but we love our bodies. Or, you know, it's like weird. It's like, that's body dysmorphia. Or if they're like, I feel disgusting today, I'm like, is that the body dysmorphia talking? Or did you eat something gross yesterday? Like really take advantage of that with your friendship. That can be tough at the beginning, but if you know she has that, you can, and if you feel like that's something she could do without spiraling, maybe she would spiral, and that's even worse advice. But I think see how you can also like make it be poking fun at it, because, you know, you can poke fun at it and then it also makes it less powerful.
Yeah. I would also say, like you said, her behavioral changes became more prominent when you started dating your boyfriend of 10 months. And I'm curious as to whether that's true or whether the amount of your life that you wanted to give to her changed 10 months ago when you got a boyfriend, because the math just doesn't add up. Like, I would be really, really shocked if you didn't become distinctly less available to her when you got a boyfriend, which would trigger, if you guys had a codependent friendship in the past, that would obviously, for good reason, trigger some feelings of abandonment because you quite literally abandoned her. 2 days a week, you used to hang out, and now you don't. Which is not to say that that's like a good and healthy response on her part. It's just to say that it's like a predictable and like a duh response. And I do think that, like, if your capacity for the friendship changes, then it's your responsibility to vocalize that change. Because most humans, like, I'm a pretty secure person, and yet if someone I hang out with 2 days a week wants to go down to 1 day a week, I would be like, feels like the way they feel about me changed.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm the same way. I have some friends
That's pattern recognition, baby girl.
Oh, yeah. And especially just like I struggle with change. I always have. So once I get into a routine of hanging out with someone kind of on a more consistent basis, when that routine changes, I am instantly like, huh? Like what? And if you're like someone that really like, I like one of my best friends before they moved out of state, it was like weird if we didn't see each other. And I remember thinking, fuck, when they move out of state, that's going to suck. But you know, it's like you adjust and you give space and that kind of thing. Because as much as codependent relationships can seem fun, because you're like always hanging out with the same person, the second there's change in there, it just makes it hard. And maybe this person also just kind of, I mean, I'm a hypocrite because I struggle with change, but maybe this friend also just needs to figure out how to work through change a little bit more, because it's really fucking hard, but it is something that literally happens to everybody all the time.
Yeah. So I would just recommend phrasing it, because my curiosity is basically, does she feel like a burden because you have allowed her to walk all over your boundaries, and then you have developed a resentment for this because the boundaries were never made clear. So she's just like crossing all of these lines that only exist in your head, and it's like, well, that's not really her fault. So first thing you need to do is make all the lines crystal clear. That is phase one. And when I say make all the lines crystal clear, I think the best way to bring up this is like I've been so stressed out and overwhelmed lately and experiencing burnout, and I had a big realization about myself that I feel overwhelmed by the amount of text messages in my phone and the amount of social engagements that I have. And so I'm going to be taking a step back and spending more nights alone at home. And I just wanted to tell you so that you don't feel insecure about that. Because it has nothing to do with how I feel about you. I adore our friendship. I just kind of realized this is something I need to do for me. Phase two is evaluating how respectful and reasonable that friend's response is to that.
Yes.
And if they become angry or make it all about them and their insecurities, then you just say, feel like you're responding to my needs with anger, and that's not fair, making everything about you and your insecurities and not really thinking about how important this is for me.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm positive. I mean, I'd like to think the friend will probably think about other stuff, because like I have some friends that are more introverted. You obviously need that more alone time. It does sound like you're definitely the more introverted of the two friends. I've had friends like that where I'm, even being an extrovert, I'm the more introverted of the two. And sometimes it's just like, yeah, you gotta, I don't want to say, it's not even stand up for yourself, because that sounds like a little extreme, but it's like sometimes you just got to be like, yeah, this is where we are not the same. And this is just where I just like literally have to take it for me to be a better friend to you and be like a better person to everybody. I just have to take this alone time to recharge.
Yeah.
I'm an extrovert, and I need time alone sometimes. Like even that, you know, so asking for time alone is so valid. And I would be very surprised if that was a boundary that they would really take to heart. But, you know, everybody's different.
Yeah, there's just a lot of like broad sweeping statements about her that she's like reliant on you socially, and it's like, apologies if it sounds like I'm not taking you at face value. I always try to get in the mind of the other person. And I'm like, what if the other person just had a best friend that they hung out with 7 days a week, you know, a codependent early 20s friendship, then all of a sudden that person got a boyfriend and became like radically less available to them. Like, I would probably also get really anxious about that.
Yeah.
That would be like a hard thing to go through, especially if it was never like mentioned. And if me wanting to hang out more or wanting to have the kind of friendship we used to have was perceived as being reliant on someone socially, that would be a hurtful assumption too.
That would be I took it as I had a friend in college who every single friend that they made that first year of college, and I hated the fact that I like did the math, but I did, and every single person that they considered a friend was friends with me first, and I introduced them. Like, I felt bad. Damn. I literally felt bad for going through, and I literally went, damn, there's not a single fucking friend. And the first friend that they made without me was the first time they didn't have me to make a friend. Like, and it's just, it's easy for me to make friends, whatever. Like, I get it. And I like it when my friends are friends. So it's really not that crazy. But just like looking back, when I recognized that, I was like, fuck, I pulled all of that weight. And I was like, oh, and then, I was like, oh, that makes sense why so many people in my life hate you and think you're dead weight. Whoopsie. Like, I never picked up on it.
Dead weight?
Not dead weight. That's a little harsh. But like, oh,
that's a crazy thing to say in a friend group. Like, if you're on like a fucking crew team, dead weight, obviously. Very clear definition.
Yeah, dead weight
in a friend group, what does that mean? Like, oh, she's not like doing enough bits? Like, what the fuck?
I don't know. Like that was not the best wording. I was just like
no, I love it because it's honest.
I know, but I don't know how accurate it is. That might just be me having some like past like anger towards the relationship, because I'm like, you did bring stuff. I'm struggling to think of it right now in this moment, but shit was brought to the table for enough time.
It's bad shit. Yeah, so basically I think something really important to do when someone else is having mental health issues is to just keep in mind your boundaries. Mm-hmm. So like, yes, that person is volatile and anxious and doom spirals, but the best thing, the most kind and compassionate thing that you can do for them in a world that will respond to them with harshness and stigma and, gloved hands and whatever, I think the kindest thing you can do is to treat them like literally anybody fucking else, like a dignified, competent human person, which means that you can deliver your hard conversations with the assumption that they will respond to it like the most mature and emotionally. Because I just think that like a lot of times if you bring up something with the full expectation that someone will respond to it with maturity, they can kind of rise to that occasion. Mm-hmm. But if you baby someone else's emotions, all that I think they receive a lot of the times is like, this person doesn't think much of me. They don't think I can process honesty. They think that I'm stupid and emotionally immature. And like all of that may be true. I just think that if you want to approach someone with kindness, you should treat them like the best possible version.
Yeah. And then this is not the best way to look at it, but then you kind of have the upper hand if they react really immaturely. It sounds bad, but like if you always try and handle it as maturely as you can, if you're given immaturity back, at least you were the one who handled it mature.
Well, then you can like say right to their face, like, this is the way I would have expected you to react, and this is how you're actually reacting, and this is why that's a problem, as opposed to if you have a conversation, and I hate this when like I've had boyfriends who are like, oh, well, like, you're so insecure, I didn't think I could bring this up, and it's like, okay, because I was vulnerable and admitted some insecurities to you one time, you now treat me with white gloves that you can't like say anything normal around me, even though I've given you no indication that, I've always like handled myself. I've never had like violent outbursts or anything. I just like handle my emotions. They pass over me like waves or whatever. But like you having conversations with me in your head where you're 10 steps ahead and you think I'm going to react this way, that's actually so cruel.
It is, because then it also like changes an entire communication pattern of a relationship, and it could also just be like inaccurate.
Yeah.
Like it literally could just be wrong.
So unpack and unwind all of these like all of the ways you've imagined that your friend is going to respond, and go back to the very beginning and just say the thing and see how they respond. Give them an opportunity to pleasantly surprise you.
Yeah, and there have been times where like I've been given like this talk before, not in the same way, but like similar idea where like I had friends sit me down for like a harder conversation that they were kind of hoping I would handle at a certain level, and then I didn't handle it amazingly, and they kind of called me out on it, and then I was able to reflect and kind of see where maybe I could have handled some things better, where it's like now looking back even more, I could be like, well, some of my feelings were valid, I maybe didn't handle it the best way, but that feeling was valid, and then it can kind of help. So it's like, if this friend is really there, sometimes a gentle, loving call out, if this is handled, like if you're honest with them and they don't handle it great, can actually be a great way to foster an even stronger friendship.
Yeah.
Like if they're willing to grow with you, because it sounds like this person could, they're willing to go to therapy and you convinced them with that. I would not be surprised if you set a boundary like very close to their therapy session. They'd bring it up to their therapist, and their therapist might, if they have a good therapist, would be like
so true. If you're besties and you know when their therapy is, ask to have that conversation right beforehand. That would literally be the kindest, most considerate thing.
And even you could even say that and be like, hey, I know if one of my friends did this, I like, hey, I know you have anxious attachment. To prevent you from getting more anxious, I'm going to tell you this so that you can go to therapy right afterwards and like kind of go over it and let me know if you have questions or something. I don't know. If
you said that to me, I would have an anxiety attack because I would be like, wait, how big is this issue? I think it's also really nice to like downplay it, because here's kind of my perception is that you've entered a situation where you've like taken 10 steps forward on your own and like had imaginary conversations with this friend in your head. And so I think it's like kind of your responsibility to take those 10 steps back to where it's a much less emotionally charged situation. Because realistically, you should have brought this up the moment it started becoming a problem. And it sounds like it became a problem 10 months ago. Yeah. So I think that you kind of need to take the responsibility that you've let it go on too long. You've let resentment. You said your friend has turned into a burden. That's kind of all your fault. So I think that you need to bring it up as if it was 10 months ago and this is barely a problem and it's very lighthearted and no big deal. And I think the anxious person will really absorb your tone and be like, oh yeah, you're just taking some more time to yourself. I can like expect it.
False narratives are a bitch. They are a bitch. I've done that before where I've gotten really, really worried conversations will go awry. And then I'm like, false narratives can really cause you to spiral in your own way. Like, this friend might spiral, but you might spiral with your own false narratives of trying to figure it out. Whereas, just really, being honest and seeing that it's probably not a her thing, is it's more of a you needing alone time.
Yeah.
Because you have secure attachment and you're probably on the more introverted side. So it makes sense you would need more alone time. Like, it's not per se a her thing, but because her feelings are this way, it's affecting you in this way, where if you take it from the perspective of this is how I'm feeling and I want to change, it'll make it seem less accusatory.
Word. Alrighty, next question. Okay. A girl is really into me, but she was mean to my friend as a kid, and I can't get past that. I have known this girl since college, and some friends of mine have known her since grade school. She is cute and nice, but I just don't want to date her at all. I think it is because she would be really mean to a really close friend of mine when they were kids. To be fair, my friend is a dummy and was probably even worse when he was in middle school. So I don't really blame her for being mean to him, but knowing that she was constantly fighting with my friend makes me feel like I'm going to get yelled at a lot if we date. She recently talked about how teachers would put her next to my friend so she could pinch him when he talked up in class. I have way less ADHD than my friend, and obviously I'm an adult, but I kind of hate the idea of dating the teacher's rule enforcer who pinched my friend all the time growing up, ACAB. I was a chubby kid and dealt with some bad teasing growing up, so I might be holding on to my need to feel safe as a reason not to date her. She is a teacher now and is very nice, but I still feel like that kid is inside of her deep down. I just don't want to date someone who will suddenly be mean/have no patience for me after the honeymoon phase wears off. That's kind of a fear for most relationships though, so this might be more of a me thing. Should I get over the fact that the girl that likes me was mean to my friend as a kid? Should I be worried that she had beef with someone who I get along with so well? Signed, the cute guy from my Seattle show. And I don't know who that is.
Damn it, when I read that, I was really hoping you were going to recognize it.
I was really hoping I would recognize it too. I'm trying to think because
Did you do any crowd work where you said cute guy?
It was almost all couples.
Oh.
And I didn't really meet anyone who I can think of who was like single. Unless it's like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Thank you for writing in though. You're anyone who writes into the podcast is de facto cute.
Oh yes.
Okay.
And this is definitely like a real problem.
Yeah, I would generally, my first thought is if you even kind of don't want to go on a date with someone, don't go on a date with them. But then you kind of like elaborate more and I'm like, I think that you should go on one single date.
I agree.
And see like what she's like, because
1000% yes.
You're getting all of this secondhand, and when we tell stories about us as a kid, we tend to use hyperbole to get across the emotional truth of it, which like I have had so much like growing up and character changes that's happened that I've kind of realized the way that because I was so hurt as a child, I was a little bit of a bully. I don't think I was actually de facto like a bully just walking around being crazy. But I just like, when I say that, what I mean is that like, I know that there are distinct people that I hurt and I feel a lot of guilt about that. I don't know, you know?
No, I actually feel the exact same way. In 4th grade, I got bullied and I bullied a girl. And I know for a fact, like, I wasn't like, I doubt I was like the thing keeping her up at night being worried, but I like definitely said some pretty backhanded and mean things. And then in 5th grade, we became like best friends when I kind of drifted from the friend group that was like being mean to me. So like hurt people for sure. So, you know, but I also agree as a kid, all of my stories where I'm the victim as a kid, I really make myself the victim. I really play the victim card whenever I'm talking about a story as a kid. So I definitely think it's worth one date.
Yeah, you're making all of these assumptions out of fear, and this is a fear that's really like manifested in other relationships where you didn't know anything about the person, and it just like I think she might. This is what I'm like wondering if happened. I'm wondering if you were in a group convo and she was like using hyperbole to like do a bit about how mean she was to your friend because she read the situation as it's not that deep. It's funny to us now. It's been so long. And I wonder if it's actually not that deep and she like had no idea how it would trigger you. I think, yeah, the big cue for me was that's a fear for most relationships. So this might be more of a me thing. I think, yeah. That's an interesting fear to have. And you should just like go out with her and see if you get the vibe. Like you should be prepared and trust yourself to walk away as soon as you see behavior you don't like. But it sounds like you don't trust yourself to do that. It sounds like you think that if you go on a few good dates with someone, you'll just stay with them forever. And so she might all of a sudden become very mean to you and you'll just stick around and endure it because you don't trust yourself to leave. And if that's the case, if you don't trust yourself to leave when you see bad behavior, then you're not ready to date at all. I'm sorry, but like it's like you're not ready to like. I had the perfect analogy about like knee pads and rollerblading, but I'm just gonna spare everyone. Okay,
and I'm so glad you're sparing us. I'm so glad.
Because I've done it so many times before where I get myself into the worst analogy of all time. And I'm like,
when you said rollerblades, I instantly was like, I'm so glad because I would have been like, yeah, rollerblading. I'm a derby girl. Like, I don't know.
Treat this as an opportunity to exposure therapy yourself and say like, I am going to, as soon as I see a red flag that is actually there, not just like, I think this red flag might be there, but like a genuine, this is a behavior I don't like, I will end things. Are you a guy who has the skill that he's able to end things? That is a big question that I have. Have you ever broken up with someone? Have you ever ended things? A lot of guys don't have that skill. They feel like if they break up with someone or end things, they'll be a bad person. And that means you're not ready to date.
Or are you really a narcissist and you think they're being mean when really you're just a shit the second you get comfortable? No, I'm just kidding. I won't.
It's like, I'm so sorry, Calvin. You can't ride a bike if you don't learn the brakes first.
That was so much better than rollerblades. Literally, that was so much better than rollerblades because everybody's ridden a bike. Everybody knows that. That was a great analogy, actually.
So if you don't know how to brake, you're going to be scared of riding a bike no matter the scenario. Even if you know how to ride a fucking bike. Like, that's a core skill. And I would argue that you can't learn the rest of the skills until you know how to brake.
And like, one date kind of sounds annoying, but I don't think I have, and I've been on a lot of bad first dates. I don't think I've really regretted very many, if any of them, because it's just one date. And if bare minimum, it's a funny story.
I think about date karma. I think that over time you achieve date balance, your date equilibrium. Everyone has a different date equilibrium, but if I look back and I average out all my dates, it's this. So if I go on a date that is severely below average, I'm just like, okay, I have an above average date coming up for me.
I haven't hit that equilibrium yet. I'm just hoping the next wave of dates I go on are just amazing. That sounds bad. I've been on plenty of decent first dates this past year.
No, I think that you have hit the equilibrium. The equilibrium is an average of all of your past dates, and it can raise gradually throughout your life. 100%. My equilibrium now is so much better than my equilibrium when I was 24.
Okay,
but like
that's valid.
that's just I'm saying like that is what your equilibrium is. Unfortunately.
Oh yeah, so my equilibrium is definitely on the lower side. Yours might be on the lower side too, my man.
It will always rise as you get older. That's so normal, Calvin.
Oh well, I wonder how old this guy is. He doesn't sound that old. I mean, but also the trauma, that's just so real of just being like, I just don't want someone to hurt me. People don't want to be hurt. So it's scary to go into it. But I think one thing, this girl is giving me like rule follower energy. And we all had that teacher that sucked because they like followed the rules that were so obviously stupid.
Yeah.
Like, why can't we leave the classroom 2 minutes early? What is going to happen? I'm going to my locker so I can beat the after school traffic is what I'm doing, Miss Morales.
Yeah.
I know you're not watching and your son probably isn't watching, but just know that was stupid and none of us liked you.
The real thing is you were like, I don't want to go on a date with her at all. Are you attracted to her? Do you have a spark? Do you find her attractive and you have a spark? It's very confusing. It seems like you're saying no, but then it seems like you're saying like maybe yes you do. There's just this one problem.
That's why I think it's worth it to go on the date.
If you don't have a genuine spark, don't go on the fucking date.
I think there is a genuine spark though, but you're right. If you feel nothing, don't force it. But I feel like there's enough back and forth that it's worth it for a date just to give yourself your own closure. Because what happens if it's a great first date? Because like I used to have the biggest stick up my ass in elementary, middle school, and high school, and it has gotten better since I've gotten older. I used to be way more of a snitch and prick than I used to be, and I think that's great. And she might have gotten the stick out of her ass too, and she might be super fun now.
Yeah.
So it's worth it. I really do think one date is worth it.
Yeah. And I think it's a good opportunity for you to learn to trust yourself more.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Okay. That is all we have time for today. Thank you so much for joining our podcast. My name is Hannah Jones, and you can find me at Hannah Jones Cool on all social media platforms.
And my name is Calvin Reed, and you can find me on all social media platforms at Calvin Reed, REID_.
And you can subscribe to our Patreon for $3 at patreon.com/Hannah Jones Cool. Thanks. Goodbye.
Bye.